Hi, I'm Carolyn Menteith, dog trainer and behaviourist.
And I'm Trevor Cooper, solicitor.
And today we're going to talk about how not to greet a dog.
Well, should we look at some marvellous illustrations by Lili Chin to help us explain the points we need to make then?
Let's. And for the very first point, don't lean over the dog and stick your hand into his face.
Well, why is that so bad then?
Well, just think about how that feels like for a dog. It's really intimidating. He doesn't know you and suddenly there's this hand stretching towards him. We know that we're being friendly. For your dog, it's just terrifying.
Well, fair enough, but I'm of a certain age. We shan't say how old. But when I was a kid, Barbara Woodhouse was all the rage.
Oh, tweed skirt and sensible shoes.
Not for me. But forgive me if I've got this wrong, but I seem to remember that we were taught as children that we should always put our hands to the dog's face so it could sniff it. Is that wrong?
As children, the very, very best thing to teach your children is that you don't go up and talk to a strange dog. That dog hasn't given consent to talk to you, and even if the owner says it's all right, owners aren't always very, very good judges of what their dogs find frightening. Safe rather than sorry.
Okay, well let's have a look at the second picture. What's this one telling us?
Well, don't lean over the dog and stick your hand on the top of his head.
But don't dogs like being stroked on the top of their heads?
They don't. Watch pictures. Go and have a look at your friends' Facebook feeds and see them when they start patting dogs on the top of their heads. The dogs are cringing, going, "Stop it, don't do it, I hate that."
Well, how about tickling them behind the ears then? Isn't that a nice thing to do for a dog?
Well, if you know your dog likes it, but it's still not the sort of thing you're going to do to a strange dog, especially not if you're leaning over the top of them, because that's just intimidating. We're really big for dogs.
Well, help me here. If a dog doesn't like what someone's doing to it, what kind of response is going to be shown?
Dogs are really, really clear in the signals that they give us when they're not feeling comfortable. So sometimes they'll look away, or lick their lips, or yawn, or if we give them the chance, they'll walk away from us. That's why going up and talking to a dog who can't escape from you can sometimes be a really bad thing to do. One of the next things that's really important is make sure you don't grab him or hug him.
Well, it's fair to say I'm not a fan of being grabbed or hugged by total strangers either.
Well, that's it. And why do people think dogs would be any different? But even if you know that dog really well, quite often family dogs don't like being grabbed and hugged, because that's not how dogs show their affection. For dogs, this is a really alien thing and it makes them feel really uncomfortable. And dogs have very, very limited ways of showing us that they're uncomfortable.
And worst case scenario, what's the dog going to do then if you're grabbing it and it doesn't like it?
What's the dog's choices if you don't let him get away? Either he just hunkers down and puts up with it, or he's going to get toothy about it. And who can blame him, because he's given you so many warnings and you've ignored him and you've been really inappropriate with him.
Well, what's the next picture then?
Oh, this is a good one. Don't stare him in the eyes. Don't go up to a dog and go, "Isn't he gorgeous?" and stare at him.
Well, if somebody did it to me, actually it would completely freak me out.
Yeah, can you just imagine if you're shopping in Waitrose, Marks and Spencer, someone comes up to you and stands in front of you and stares at you? You're going to push them into the frozen peas, quite frankly.
What's the next picture?
Don't shout or squeal in his face. Don't get right up close and go, "Doggy!" Which people do, and children do.
Well, I've seen behaviourists do that as well.
You've probably seen me doing that.
Indeed I have. So how is it you're able to get away with it and the ordinary Joe like me couldn't?
It's inappropriate for anyone to do it. If you know the dog really, really well, if that's a dog that you've met before, that you know is really social, and that you know that that dog is happy with you doing it, that dog's got to get out if he wants to, then yeah, you can maybe take a few more liberties with him. But basically for dogs, that's just a horrible thing to do. Dogs are much more sensitive to physical contact, to proximity, to being stared at, to loud noises. Again, would you like to be shrieked at in the middle of Marks and Spencer's?
No, but sadly it has happened in the past. There's that old-fashioned phrase, "let sleeping dogs lie." Is that still true today?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Dogs have to know that when they're asleep, when they're in their safe places, that they're not going to be pestered, that they can relax. but they do have their space respected. So important.
So what's our final illustration on how not to greet a dog?
This is the one that if you look at Facebook, there's photographs all over the place, grabbing his head and kissing it. It's a real invasion of a dog's space. Dogs don't like us being that hands-on and physical with them.
So for a dog, is it a bit like when you were a kid and your aged aunt used to come up to you and give you a big smacker?
Lipstick marks all down the side of the face, and you know how much you hated it. And you know what you did as well. You just closed your eyes and endured it and really, really, really hoped you'd go away. And dogs do exactly the same things. But if we don't go away, we sometimes only leave them with one choice.
So we've looked at the ways on how not to greet a dog, but what are the tips for the correct way to greet a dog then?
Well, the very, very first one is don't stare at him. This is really intimidating, so no eye contact. And the most important thing is let him approach you. He's got to be comfortable with it, and if he wants to interact with you, then he's going to come and approach you. So don't lean over him, keep your side towards him so you're in a nice unthreatening posture, and let him approach you in his own time. And he can look at you and sniff you and decide whether he wants to talk to you at all. Think about consent. It's really important in dogs. That dog has to give consent to interact with you, whether you know them or not.
Any other tips, apart from perhaps getting a cat then?
No, they never want to interact with you. They just look at you and go, I'm going out. When you're going to interact with him, pet him and stroke him on the side of his face, on his body. Maybe do a little bit of a bottom scratch. Always give him the opportunity to be able to move away from you as well. So don't pin him in the corner or on his bed or somewhere where he can't escape from you. Make it pleasurable for him. Watch to see whether he's enjoying it.
Well, thanks very much, Carolyn. That's been really useful for me, and I hope it's been useful for others.